Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. I want to continue the conversation that we're having about a higher dimension and higher density and how do we get there. But before I get started, I wanna talk a little bit about how we exist in 3D reality and what's the implication is with this idea of a 3D. If we are to understanding dimensions as a direction of travel in space, we can easily say, for example, that a dot or point is a zero dimension. When you take the dot and you create a line, that line becomes a one direction in which you can travel, that becomes a 1D space. If you then create a perpendicular axis to this line, you end up having a length and width direction in which you can travel, so you end up having a plane, and that plane becomes a 2D space. Now, if you end up having a height coming from that plane, so you end up having a third dimensional space. And the reason I mention this is that if there is such a thing as a 4D, it will be another way or direction of traveling in space as well, right? And 5D would be also an additional connection to our consciousness as a way to travel in space. But for the moment, we are limited by the cube or the box that we exist in, which is the 3D box, where we can go length, width, and height. So I'm trying to kind of figure out how to explain this fourth and fifth dimension when we are still kind of like a two-dimensional person in a length and width dimension, trying to explain what height may possibly look like in a similar fashion. So before I even begin to go back to the dimensions and what 4D might look like, I want to talk about the fact that all sensory perceptions or five senses are the gateway that allows us to process the stimulus, the stimuli that are coming from the 3D world. It is by smelling, touching, seeing, hearing, that we begin to interpret the information that exists in that volume. Thus, what allows us to continue to survive in that environment becomes a jail or a prison that holds us in that space. Now, although we exist in the present, we have memories of the past, and we cannot really completely travel in the past, although we have memories of it. And the future is just inaccessible to us. Now, I want to talk for a moment about two separate things. One is a theory of relativity. Just very brief overview, okay? It's a very complex thing. I'm just going to go to a brief overview as it relates to the conversation of going to a higher dimension. So the genius observation of Einstein is that the way he interpreted all 3D reality in the theory of relativity and the way scientists are trying to explain it, it is highly connected to gravity. If you have, for example, a trampoline, and I'm using that analogy as a way to explain what happened in space, in 3D space. If you have a trampoline and you consider the trampoline to be the fabric of time and space, Objects, if you take a marble, you put into that fabric, that trampoline, it will dent slightly. But on the other hand, if you put a bowling ball, the bowling ball will create a greater dent. And if you put now the bowling ball in the center with a greater dent, and you put a marble around it, the marble will actually rotate for a while in the orbit of the bowling ball, like a planet would rotate around the sun or a greater mass, like a satellite to the greater mass. But I want you to understand that what I am explaining to you about the fabric of time and space bending around objects that have great mass, that whole thing, you have to understand, space-time is not a membrane. It's not a sheet or a trampoline. Space-time would be like you and I, it's all around us. It would be like us being in water, and the medium is all around us. Okay? We're using that example as a way to kind of illustrate it, but really you have to understand it in that context. And the way matter, since the inception of our universe, our entire universe, the way physical reality began to be created, it went from potential for manifestation into possible manifestation, and the lightest gas, hydrogen, one proton, one electron, as the first thing that got physically created as a physical particle. And the hydrogen would begin to collide with each other, then and as they collide, electron would leave up, connect to something else, attract another proton, then helium. So 2 electron, 2 proton. So, and again, more complex molecules. So through this process going on for millions of years, these gases, these early gases and early subatomic particle begin to create what move in a circular motion and create what scientists call an accretion disks. And the disks got, as more molecules collided with each other, basically became denser and denser and denser, and created all of the atoms that exist in the a lot of the atoms that exist in the periodic table. And the denser the atoms were, the more mass it created, and mass, and the bigger the mass, the more space-time continuum started to, that gravity began to create a deformation in space-time. So that's the physical, one of the physical explanation, one of the things I want to explain about relativity. The other thing that I want to also mention is that when you have first, it's always a mass or a planet, an accretion disk, that gets created before the sun gets ignited into a nuclear fusion reaction. It's just a ball of atoms and molecules. In the case of our sun is 1 million times bigger than our own planet. That sun, at some point, that it was a giant mass, and the mass got ignited, mostly made of helium. It got ignited, hydrogen and helium, and it got ignited. And when it got ignited, it became the sun. Some sun don't ignite; they become brown dwarf. There are suns that don't ignite. There are masses that don't ignite, and they become something else. And we don't know how exactly the nuclear fusion reaction gets created. We don't know why, but we do know that they get ignited. And at some point, they will burn. Almost, it will seem that the sun burned forever, but it doesn't. There is a beginning and there's an end, maybe extending over several billion years. At some point, all sun will die. Our own sun and any sun anywhere will die. And when that happens, there are 2 paths the sun can take. It can become a supernova and explode out and reorganize the entire solar system and that it exists in. and create more stuff. Got like explode out and destroy everything, but in the same token, recreate from what's around it new things. Because the law in the universe that operates is the law of change. Or that sun can collapse in itself and become so dense and so tight and so dense that it becomes a black hole. A black hole is the densest thing that can exist in our physical universe. And that black hole, when it's created, because it's so dense, if you can imagine instead of one bowling ball, you end up having so much mass that it dents the entire fabric, the three-dimensional fabric of space-time, where there is a perimeter around which anything that crosses it cannot escape the center. Anything that crosses it will the word that scientists use, they call it spaghettification. It becomes like spaghetti. It begin to be free. Planet, other suns, anything that cross the accretion disk will go to the center. Even light itself cannot escape it because the mass is so massive, right? I wanted to mention this to give you a background, because when we're talking about the 3D, these are the limitations. The other limitation I want to mention as well is the fact that if we are to travel to the nearest Earth-like planet, which is Alpha Centauri, which is something like less than 3 light years away. If we leave today and we're traveling at the speed of light, it will take us over 70 years to get there. You and I will be dead by the time we are, well, not necessarily dead. What's going to happen is that people behind us are going to be dead. What happened to us is that the closer you get to the speed of light, you start to slow down. It's a paradox. It's like a prison that the volume or the water that we're swimming in of space-time, it creates a prison around us so that we cannot escape the 3D environment. It's a locking mechanism. Are we so far so good? Is there anything that you want me to go over? Okay. So if we are to emancipate from that 3D Zerapine or prison, how do we move now into 4D or 5D? And in order for that to happen, and of course there are beings, ascended masters, and that have achieved this. And the way to do this is that you have to have non-attachments. You have to let go of everything that exists in the 3D reality. And you are not going to perceive the fourth dimension, which is another direction of travel that is not connected to those 3 axes, length, width, and height. You're not going to see it through those lenses. You're going to see it through something else. You're going to perceive it or know it through something else. The best way I can describe this is to say to you, you know how sometimes you're walking somewhere and without you knowing it, somebody is walking behind you and you can sense them. And you can feel that somebody is there. And sometimes you can feel the specific person that's there. Okay? So that's what I wanted to explain to you, that this is the way we're going to, we're not going to perceive it with our 3D perception. We are not, the way we feel, see, we're not going to see or understand higher dimension through those lenses. It will be through the amygdala, which is this, because that's what the amygdala does. It's very chatty, and it will be through our consciousness. It will be like a vignette or window of our consciousness that will give us an instant knowing. It will not be through a 3D perception that is connected to the 3D reality and the quantum mechanic of relativity, the theory of relativity. So that's that explanation. If you and I were to be exposed, if we can try to emancipate into the understanding of what a 4D being or dimension would look like, I want to say here that fourth dimension is a space-time dimension. It's the understanding, and in the theory of relativity, Einstein calculated the math is there. It's a space-time dimension, right? And it says in there that basically you would not, there was a symbol in you can Google this. It's called the tesseract, and you will see it, and they have animation of it. You will see a cube that's moving like a torsion field and perpetually moving unto itself. So the way, when you're perceiving in 4D, any object or anything that you look at, you're seeing the beginning and the end of the object at the same time. I'm going to explain to you how it happened to me once. I was doing a healing for a client, and I was holding the client's leg, a foot actually. And as I was holding the client's foot, I could feel the energy of Lord Melchizedek. And the energy was moving through me and going into the person. And in between me and the foot of the person, I saw an ancient old person. White hair, white blonde beard, old, but resplendent with light. And I realized that what I was looking at was the Ancient of Days. It was Melchizedek. And as I was looking at him in awe, because I could feel the energy and the light, suddenly it changed. I saw a resplendent youth, the most handsome man I've ever seen in my entire life. Vibrant with energy, beautiful, beautiful skin, the hair, beautiful, stunning. So perception of that dimension is a tesseract. You see the beginning and the end of things like a torsion field that's in perpetual motion. Okay? The other thing as well in the fourth dimension that I should mention is that in the fourth dimension, you exist in what is called superposition in quantum physics. It means that if I'm holding this pen in my hand, that pen in 3D, in the volume of 3D, as we describe it, as if the space-time continuum is like we put the pen on the water, it's all around it. It's focused in one location. Our consciousness perceives it in one location, but in superposition, it is actually everywhere in the universe simultaneously. And so the way quantum physics operate, quantum physics predates, looks at things before they were physically manifested. Remember, we talk about the theory of relativity and hydrogen being the lightest atom, one electron, one proton, and all that, and the equation is quantum physics looks at everything that exists before that. So you have tachyon, you have quartz, you have all these quantum particles, and all these particles exist by different laws. In fact, what does superposition mean? That if it's an electron or a tachyon particle, that tachyon particle can, because everything in the quantum field because we are looking now at the no thing. Before there was physical reality, the no thing that created everything. In that space of no thing, you now have particles that actually exist as potential for manifestation. And the potential could be strong in one side of the universe, and at one moment it shifts, and the particle disappears, the tachyon disappears there and shows up on the other side of the universe instantaneously. And why I'm saying this about the travel instantaneously to one side to another, it's because if dimensions are connected to a direction of travel, one of the biggest thing with speed of light that we were describing before, an anomaly of speed of light, is that if this is the universe and the universe is a torsion field, it's a ball, it's a donut that wrapped into itself. If I'm up here and I want to go down here, I have to travel across the curvature of time, space, and space-time, and wrap around and come back to the other side to come up, okay? To get to the other side. So it's going to take me many light years to get to the other side of the universe. A 3 light years away takes 70 of our Earth year for a ship to go at close to light year speed from here to Alpha Centauri, to the next Earth-like planet. So there is another way to travel. It's called, when we talk about a wormhole, which is to find very exotic particle that will puncture an opening, because instead of traveling to the curvature of time and go all the way across to the bottom, if the destination is from the top to the bottom, if I can create an opening in the center, it will take me less time to travel. I still will move at the speed of time, but it will take me less time. So you have to create a special kind of engine with very exotic particles that are very rare, to create an opening that will open almost like a black hole, but it's a wormhole, an opening that will direct you across the very fabric or the bent or the curvature of space-time. And I wanted to describe this to you because I want you to understand why I'm saying what the quantum particles are doing, like tachyon, is very powerful. Because the superposition implies the same tachyon that exists, or electron or proton, that exists in one side of the universe. If you, with the right parameters, we don't know why, but these in observation, in laboratory observation of these particles, one moment they're in one place and the next moment they show up somewhere else. Same exact object. It's just in an instant. They disappear in one location and reappear in another one. Now, one may argue that it's because the experimentation or the observation of scientists who are witnessing it. It's the kind of a paradox of the double slit experiment. The double slit experiment is, you can also Google this, is a very famous experiment that scientists did accidentally, where they have two slits in a wall or some sort of, and then on the back there was a very sensitive material that was recording, and they were bombarding those two slits. Initially, it was electrons, which are particles, right? And the pattern that was recorded in the sensitive membrane that was behind them was that it was pattern that they expected when a particle falls on the surface. But for whatever reason, the scientists forgot to shut off the machine. They went out. When they came back, the pattern they observed was that of a wave, like a sound. They were puzzled because they were bombarding electrons. So they set up all these cameras and all this stuff. And long in the conclusion of this, they realized that what determined what they saw on the sensitive membrane that's recording what falls what comes through the double slit is the expectation of the scientist. It is the observer, the person who is observing it, that's creating what happens. So we don't know in quantum mechanics if it's not the scientist observing and expecting the tachyon to be in one side of the universe and then disappear and reappear somewhere else. We don't know what, but that's what happens. All of a sudden, the molecule is there, the quantum particle is there. The next moment, it's somewhere else. It doesn't matter what the distance is. The distance becomes completely irrelevant. And as a matter of fact, I have to look for that video, but I have its bookmarked somewhere. The Chinese, maybe a year and a half ago to 2 years ago, did an experiment where they actually kind of teleported through the same mechanic, an series of electrons from Earth into their space station that they have around the Earth. In an instant, the electron was there. The next moment, it was in the space station. So we know that it's physically possible to do. So that's the other mastery that exists in the 4D, is that time and space, not just space, but space-time connected together. What do I mean by space-time? Well, let's say you're crossing the street and the light is yours and you cross the street. But the next moment, as soon as the light changed, there's a truck that moves in very quickly, and right behind your heels, the truck crossed. If your timing and that of the truck were the same, your path would have crossed and the truck would have hit you. So space and time have to converge together in the 4D to create very specific, the coordinate have to match. So in order for the electron or the subatomic particle to move from one place into the next location, the destination location, let's say from one side of the universe to the bottom, the destination location, you have to know the space-time coordinate. You have to understand and know what it is. And you, as the observer or the human consciousness or the God consciousness, have to have enough emotional mastery. This is why I'm insisting that we all do all this emotional intelligence work. Because once you have done that and you have healed and repaired through dealing with your karma and dealing with the emotional triggers, and you have completely, basically healed, your emotional body is your energy body. You can begin with your consciousness, say to yourself, I need to be at this space-time location, and your entire electron or quantum particle, you will literally cease to be in one location and move somewhere else. Now, I actually believe a lot of the ETs that we're seeing in the UFO sighting that we're seeing that are moving at speed and in direction in ways that are so impossible. One moment they're there, the next moment they disappear. I actually believe that's what they have mastered. It's not, they're not traveling at the speed of light. Their engine and whatever they operate is operating with consciousness. Somebody who has, or the pilot or whoever is maneuvering it, has mastered so much of their own energy and consciousness that they can basically begin to direct the entire Merkaba or vehicle that they're in to shift somewhere else. And it will automatically shift instantaneously. Any questions, any comments? How do we get there? If this is the case and this is where we're going. Oh, by the way, somebody asked this morning, and I want to mention this because Marjorie had asked this, and I want to bring this up. We had said when we were talking about the archons and all the fallen beings that they exist in the 4.5D. And if we're going to the 4D, we will not run into them. I will tell you now, no. As long as you remain in the 4D frequency, you will not bump into them. It's like having a note, let's say an F or a G, and they are actually the sharp version of the G or the F. You have to hit that note to get to them. If you don't hit that note, you're going to go 4D, 5D, you will never see them. Okay? It's a dissonance, and other ways to describe it in the book of Enoch, the second book or the second book talks about the different level of heavens, and it talks about the fact that all of the fallen angels are actually in the second heaven. They are not in some abyss or pit. When Enoch was being elevated to go to all the levels of heaven, the 10th level, the 10th heaven, he observed that what we call hell was in the third heaven, and the fallen angel were in the second heaven. So the frequency would be 4.5D. That's where they are. You don't have to worry about it as long as your intention and your heart is pure, and you've done all the emotional intelligence work leading to this. You will be able, you will not enter that realm. The other thing I want to mention as well is that a lot of spiritual beings that I know, very advanced masters and holy people that are saint, I would say, and holy people that are alive today, have mastered this ability to move in times, in space-time. Babaji is reputed to have appeared to his students. Master Jesus did it in the Bible when he showed up out of nowhere to his disciple while they were isolated together. He appeared to them. This was a fourth space-time continuum mastery that he was demonstrating. I know people that are Indian saint at this moment that have mastered this as well, that can do exactly the same thing. They could be talking to somebody in India, and the next moment, there was a famous Indian saint, I won't mention, one of the Amas, that she was getting out of a car. It's a story that one of his devotees told me. She was getting out of a car, and when she gets out, when she arrives when she's visiting somewhere, they have an umbrella for her, and they open the door. The next thing they notice, she was not there. She was there before when they saw through the window. They opened the door. They didn't see her. She was not there. And they were looking behind them. So where is the master? And they look again. She's back. But this time, she's typically barefooted. And this time, her foot were filled with sand. And they said, Mother, Amma, we didn't see you for a moment. And she said, I had to go help one of my child. And then she walked in and did the ceremony. And whilst this is going on in the afternoon of the event that she was attending, somebody called that a devotee, one of her student that she had in California, her son was drowning. And the son saw Amma, came and put her ashore. This is why they saw sand in her feet. So there are beings who have mastered this. But in order for that mastery to arrive, to get to, you have to you have to surrender and let go of all of your attachments. Attachment to people, places, and things. This is why when I'm doing the meditation, I keep asking for you to repeat over and over to yourself silently, I release all attachment, fears, and control. And then I surrender into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. Which means what? You go back to the primordial state of endless possibilities before there was hydrogen atom. You're trying to go back to the beginning. Bring your consciousness back to the beginning state. Release all attachment, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless possibilities. Because all quantum particle exists in the field of endless possibilities. And when you're there, if your energy body is strong enough, meaning, what do I mean by your energy body is strong enough? And the reason for the emotional intelligence work. The typical person of the planet, particularly now, even worse than ever because of all the turbulence that's happening in the world and other atmospheric weather coming from California, earthquake, solar flare, or political, social, war, etc., etc. We are so distracted by everything else that's going on the other side that we are constantly in survival. And we are forgetting the other equally powerful instinct that binds all of us, which is interdependence. And again, superposition and interdependence. And so, because of this, our will and our desire and our absolute certainty connected to God is extremely weakened. We intend, and we unintend 3 to 5 times per minute. And probably now, worse than ever. We intend, we unintend, we intend, we unintend. And because of this, so if you're trying to get rid of the fear, I release all attachment, fears, and control. You release it in the next moment, the attachment returns. It has to be one or the other. Am I going to let it go and release it and surrender it? Or am I going to bring it back? And like a cow, regurgitate it. So if I keep bringing it back, I don't have the capacity to remain in that field of endless possibilities. I don't have the capacity to enter into the emptiness and luminosity. So till I can release all of it, I release all attachments, fears, and control, and I surrender into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. And as I surrender, I think about my senses. I think about emotionally my pet peeve at the moment. What's worrying me about the social political atmosphere? What's worrying me about my money? What's worrying me about emotional relationship that I have, family, friends? And I surrender all of it. I go to the list of everything that's triggering me, and even the things in my body that I'm beginning to feel that I didn't know even were there. And if you can release all of it or enough of it, you're going to enter into the blessed field, the endless possibilities. And when you're there, you may experience, again, there is a kind of what's the word? Initially, when people enter that realm, you may blank out for a moment. It might be all of a sudden you think you pass out. You doze off to go somewhere else. You didn't doze off. It's just that your consciousness is trying to adjust to the bardo and the transit of a state of consciousness that predates physical manifestation. And once you're there, your consciousness is no longer in the cube or the volume of space-time, of the 3D space-time. You go somewhere else. And in that realm, you may experience, like I did, it could be that all of a sudden you begin to feel or sense things that are outwardly, meaning by that, it could be feelings at first, or it could be images if you're more visual, and it could be like, in a sense, the thing that I saw with Lord Melchizedek, it's like the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega, all at once. Because when they call God the Alpha and the Omega, that's 3D perception. It's seeing the beginning and the end interlinked with each other. To someone who is in that state of awareness, there are no secret to them. Not only do they see to solid wall, because they exist in a field of endless potential, they see everything. And I can tell you, when I perceive, when I connect to do the channeling with the Galactic Region Council, they take me into that realm. Because the way the future horizon shows up to me is potential for manifestation. And sometimes when I'm with my client, if I'm really completely surrendered and neutral to them, I will see the solution set to their problem as not just as one. Let's say they're asking me advice about something. I don't see just one thing. As they're talking, how do I describe this? While they are talking and telling me their stories, what happened is that there is a kind of almost like a daydream, and then the vignette, something happens inside of me. And my gift, as I said to you before, is to listen. And when I'm really surrendered and I'm a blank slate, I go back to pre-creation. I go into the nothing. And people are telling me their story. Any incongruity or stuck feelings or situational emotion that they're telling me open up a vignette inside of me. And that vignette, sometimes, it's never one thing. It's a multiplicity of possibilities. Sometimes it's 2 things, sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 6. And interestingly enough, because it opened at once, it's not like I see the first thing, I need the second. It's all of a sudden, all of them shows up at the same time. Poof, they're all open. It's like a fan that opens around me, and they're all around me. And when I see it, it's not seeing, because I'm not seeing it with my eyes. I'm seeing with my inner eye. And it comes with all kinds of feelings that are connected to this possibility, and the second, and the third, and the fourth, but not in a linear fashion. They're equally distributed around me. And at times, after looking and for me, linearly, like this is Pierre still in 3D, I'm trying to remember all of them, because I want to be able to tell my client, once the process is over, what I perceive. I want to relate it to them. And sometime what happened is that instead, let's say I see 4 things, and then in the end, only 2 of them remain, or 1 of them remain, which means these other possibilities exist. Begin again, at the quantum field, it's endless possibilities. Out of the endless possibilities, for this person in this moment in time, again, space-time in this moment in time, when space-time cross each other, for him or her at this moment, that's the path that they need to follow, or that's the future that's going to happen to them if they continue down this path. Have I lost all of you? Does any of this make sense?
No, I'm paddling hard to keep up, but I'm with you.
Okay. Okay. Because I'm trying to explain something to you that I don't have a way in 3D to try to explain it. You understand? And I'm using my personal example because that's the only way I can illustrate it. I'm not in that state all the time. At moment, I am blessed to enter it. At other moment, I'm not there. I only have the memory of having been there. Okay? The idea is to exist in it as much as possible. It was reputed that Ascended Master Kuan Yin, goddess, the Bodhisattva of compassion, the reason of the statue of her with 1,000 hands, it's because she can multi-locate, meaning she can be in the quantum field, in the field of endless possibilities. She could be in 1,000 places at the same time to answer the prayer, because she hears the cries and the suffering of the world. So that's the next step in our evolutionary ladder. It's the best way I can describe to you the 4D at this moment. That and the way to get to it is for us to be in a state of surrender, to let go of our attachments. And having done all of this emotional work, our energy body will concentrate, it will be smooth. We won't have, it's very hard to explain. When somebody's telling me in coaching their story, a client is telling me, what happened is that if there is stuck energy or there is an emotional thing, it feels like a dissonance, like you're listening to music, either the sound, the pitch is not correct, or it's a sharp sound, or it's flat. Something is not right. And at that moment, the vignette opens. It's like there is an awareness of because a lot of time client is asking for help. I don't know why this keeps happening to me, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. And sometimes it's the answer to their problem shows up. I remember one time a client asking me this, and there were multiple possibilities that showed up, including abuse from family members. And then, but the answer that I ended up giving her was connected to specifically to what she needed to do at the time. It opened up. There were 3 or 4 things, and then it focused into one thing. And I remember saying to her, you need to go to the dentist. It's your teeth. She was having physical problem. It's your teeth. You need to go to the doctor to know this. It's your teeth. And I'm telling you something like how many surgeries she's had since that happened 5 years ago. It was her teeth. So the teeth became a vehicle through which, let's put it indifferently, it's not that the other stuff that I saw, the abuse, and were not there. They were there, but they were the emotional cause of something else. And in terms of her physical health at the moment, for her to continue to exist on the planet, she had to address her teeth. When you're in that state, again, there are no secrets to you. And it's not that you're scanning, it's just that, again, you're so surrendered into the field of possibilities. And in that field, everything is shared because you exist as in superposition, and you're merged with everything. Moreover, there is no malice in that state. You have to be completely neutral. And when someone comes and asks you for help and you're trying to coach them, the insight that you get in that is for the benefit, particularly when there were multiple and then they narrow down into 1 or 2. That's what they need to know. because the field is trying to direct you. First, when the query shows up, in other words, when the client is talking to me and I'm in that state, they're not talking to Pierre in 3D. They're talking to my already ascended self that is in the fourth dimension. They're talking to my God self. And when they ask the question to my God self, the answer shows up for me. I am nothing more than the scribe or the translator that brings that information into the 3D world to them. In other words, I don't do the healing. It's the God within me that does the healing. I don't have any special powers or abilities. It is that higher part of me that's connected to the endlessness that does the healing. In fact, when that ability shows up, it's that blinking your eyelid. It's that easy. But it is also that complicated. All the trainings that I've given you over the past, some of you have been with me, 2008, 2009, some of you before that. All of it is directly, was leading up to this. Your emancipation, your liberation into this higher dimension, in this higher realm. Of course, there are higher dimensions beyond that, but we need to go to the dimension that's in front of us. We're in 3D now. We need to, and again, I want you to understand something. The 3D is not gonna go quietly and say, just dismantle me and let's move on to the next piece. This is why the world is in crisis right now. That the 3D and the forces, what they call in Buddhism, the maras, the master of illusion that are connected to this, is going to create chaos to make us stay in survival so that we remain in prison in the volume or box of the 3D world. They don't want us to emancipate. That's why it's required for us to have discipline and to have protocol and to do all the meditation and the query and all the things that we're doing and the prayers so that we can begin to transcend this. Any questions, any comments? I know that some of you who are listening to me right now benefited from my having touched that realm on your behalf. There were moments where in your spiritual journey that you were stuck somewhere, and in either healing or conversation with him, I was able to access that realm, at least temporarily, to give you an answer to information and quandary that I was not seeking. And the funny thing about this realm as well is that, particularly when somebody's telling me their story, I don't go in there trying to find their business. This is not what I'm doing. Because again, my gift is to listen. I don't go in there trying to tactically get information and to demonstrate to them what a great healer I am. I don't do any of that stuff. You all know me long enough by now to know that's not what I do. All I do is remain in surrender, and I release everything, and I become so neutral to you or to whomever I'm listening to. And in the process of that listening, at the moment the gifts gets activated. I remember being in a class. Well, it was a Sunday class, and during the concluding meditation, this happened years ago. The concluding meditation, I remember while I am channeling, live channeling, I don't know what the next word is going to be, and during the breath, I inhale and I'm about to exhale, an answer to someone else's problem that I had a conversation with several days ago about not being able to breathe and having some breathing difficulties and all that and so on and so forth. I heard so clearly a voice within me say to me, tell this person that they have a gas leak in their home. Okay? Literally, I'm channeling, it was so weird. I'm channeling a meditation. I don't know what the next word is going to be. While I'm taking the breath, the solution set for a conversation that had happened a couple of days earlier, comes in during that concluding, that retention of the breath between the inhalation or my exhalation and the next word. I finished the channeling, and I remember it was a live class. I remember telling everybody, you need to leave now because I need to call this person and let them know. The next day, the person called to say to me, you saved my life once more. You were absolutely correct. There was an impossible, it was not, the gas company came with a monitor, and they were able to find in the boiler that there was a leak that could have caused an explosion. All of these are abilities that are accessible. Again, I'm not looking for it. I had that conversation 2 days earlier, at least 2 days earlier, and I was not seeking an answer for it. I was actually busy doing something else. And again, because I was connected to spirit, I went in the blessed field, I was channeling the answer to this other problem that was, again, space-time critical, because there could have been an explosion. It was a space-time critical, so it's a future that was about to happen. The answer came through. I hope I'm painting a picture for you. Does this explain it better? Any questions, any comments?
Just acknowledging, Pierre, as you're speaking, that yes, that did happen for me. That message came to check the gas lines, and the company, they came. They said, "How would you know that there was gas leaking?" They said they put this through their normal test, nothing happened. And the guy said, well, I'm going to check one more way. He went to his vehicle and got out another instrument and came back. And he said, oh, my goodness. He said, yes. He said, this is impossible. He said, he had joked. He said, you must have some kind of nose. and I thought to myself, well, see, I couldn't explain to him that the spirit had advised me that there was this leak. How do you tell anybody this thing? And so many times things happen to us that defies explanation to anyone else other than that spirit has answered. You, each one of us is, Bobby and I were talking about a song this morning, and it's, they used to sing this song, Jesus on the main line. Just say spirit on the main line. Tell him what you want. And when you say, and through your your end, the answer comes. The answer comes. So there is that is aware of everything that has to do with our lives. And in that case, yes, I have a gas system that heats the house, and that's the reason why they put that smell in the gas, because the gas normally has no smell. So if they didn't put a smell there, there would not be any way for you to be able to tell when you had encountered this gas, this natural gas. So I'm indeed grateful for everything that is happening for us, to us, and through us, because he's online, or it could be someone else that was online, but the channel was open, the answer came through, and I say, glory, hallelujah. And so, I had an experience the other night myself, and I kept saying, what a strange dream. What in the world is this dream about? And I woke up, and this was just yesterday that I woke up with this dream, and it seemed like I had gone into this big building, and it was a tall, tall, tall building. There were people all over the place, and they were going toward these elevators. And it seemed to me that just prior to that, I had seen one of my former temple sisters, and I also was aware that my own sister was there. But I couldn't see her, but I could feel her presence. And it seemed to me like I had the hand of my granddaughter, and I was holding her as we were going through this throng of people. And as we were pressing toward these elevators, I lost her. And then the impression came to me from my temple sister that we are going to the 10th floor, and you just get the next elevator. And I said, Barbara has your granddaughter. Barbara has her. And so I was satisfied within myself that the child wasn't lost. And then I started to try and go to find another elevator. And the elevator, I went around the corner, and there was another elevator, and a lot of people there too. And I said, oh my goodness, you mean I have to get on this long line again? And so this man that was there on the line, he said, come. And I got in front of that line. And then when the doors opened up, we went into this elevator, but it seemed like it turned into a room. It turned into a room that looked like some kind of spa kind of a situation. Everything was beautiful. It was like a beautiful place that you go to that, like some kind of luxury, kind of a spa or something. And so I'm saying, what is this? What is it? He said, this is the elevator. And so it just seemed like it was just barely seemed to be moving. I could feel the vibration of this thing, but it was going so slow. And it was going upwards slowly. And I said, let me off of this thing. I said, where are we? He said, you're at the 5th level. You're at the 5th level. And I said, well, let me out. I said, I will walk the rest of the way. This is going too slow. And when I got out to go the rest of the way by myself, I woke up. And I said, now what was that? I sat there on the side of the bed. I said, what does this mean? Does this mean, the chakras? Or is this moving dimensionally? What just happened? So, and then when you started talking this morning, I said, oh my goodness. I said, well, I got that as an experience. And so as I heard you talking, I understood what you were saying because I experienced it, within this dream. So I I still was trying to figure out, is this moving up the chakras, or is this moving dimensionally, because it was going,
It's not
like,
chakra. If you're going vertically in your dream, it's not chakras. It's actually dimension. If you're traveling
ah,
horizontally in your dream, and you're traveling by bus, by car, by train, you're going to parallel realities. If you're going vertically in elevator or stairway and you're going up, you're actually ascending into a higher dimension. So it would be interesting that even slowly as it moved to have gone to the 10th floor, because that would mean you would access higher dimension. Right now, you apparently got off at the 5th dimension, the 5th floor.
wow. And it seemed to me that my sister had said to my temple sister had said to me that they had gone on an express,
Yes.
and so when I got diverted, and pushed aside, because it was not of my own volition, I got pushed off of that, that elevator, and got pushed out of that way. And I said, wow, okay, then I'll go and I'll find. So I'm on a local, huh? Going up.
It's okay, Celidia. The way we all grow, I'll share with you, and I wrote extensively about this in the next book. Everyone will have to make their own choice. And the people that you love are not going to be in the same elevator with you. But ultimately, we're all going to be going to the same place. So the idea is to, the way you saw yourself being pushed aside, it's your feelings and emotion and all of the other turmoils that are in your life emotionally that you need to unravel to get you to the right elevator so that you can go to where you're supposed to go.
Right. Yeah, she
Yeah.
was insistent. She said, to meet her on that level, that like it was like, and she gave me a number to meet her on that level, and she said my sister had an apartment next to her. She said, "You find her, you find me." I said, "Whoa," and she looked so beautiful. She was dressed in this beautiful yellow, like sari, and it had like a burnished brown and gold, um, you know, wrap. Like if you have a belt or something that goes up, but it was just like wrapped around her. But oh my goodness, how beautiful she looked. So I said, wow. So I just say this is the reality, because that's our reality and that's our expectation. So you will meet the expectation of the reality that you hold consciously in your mind.
Keep in mind that when you're dreaming in your dream, you're going horizontally, you're traveling to parallel world. But when you're going vertically, you are ascending dimensions.
I was definitely going vertically, and this building was so tall, I didn't even see the top of the building. It was just that was the floor, and I just said, "Well, hey, I'm glad that when you are having this experience, that you have someone that you could say this to, because to someone else, you just appear to be, somebody's eccentric or crazy or whatever.
Yep,
But
absolutely.
but to be able to share that, and this is why I just listened. I just listened, and I probably would have just listened again as you were talking. But when you mentioned about the gas, I want you to know that yes, this did happen,
Yes,
and
thank
this
you.
is real,
Thank you.
and
Thank you,
this is
son.
the reality of the way.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any questions or comments? Esther, Bobby, one of you wanted to say something?
Pierre, I wanted to say that my, oh, I mean, how I said, I am more and more, your teachings and everything, it's helping me to understand more and more my reality and how, giving me more confidence. That's what I want to say. Before I was really in a lot of fear and everything, but now I'm feeling much more confident about my life, my future, and all of that. And I just wanted to thank you so much for that, for everything, really, because it's it's a I could just say I'm here. It's a miracle, and I thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
everything.
You're welcome, Bobby. Don't make me cry now, okay? But yes.
And recently, I don't know, I tell you a story, but I saw the doctor who was in emergency care at Yale, New Haven. He remembered me, and it was so. I went to his office, private office, and he kept looking at me. He kept examining my hands. He looking at the chart. He said, "You were at Mount Sinai," and I said, "Yes." He said, "You were transferred into Yale the Tuesday after Thanksgiving." That's it. Before Thanksgiving. And I said, "Yeah." He said, and he kept looking. He was looking at my hands. He was looking at everything. He could not believe I was the same person. And it's just, I don't know. Because I was all shriveled up. He said, "You were all shriveled up." I don't think he it was like a miracle in a sense. Even to when he was like, he kept, "And you're the same person." And then at the end, he just like, he wanted to help me off the table. And I said, "No, I can get off. I can do it myself." And he just shook his head. It was just amazing. But I thank you.
You're welcome. Again, I, in a way, it's not exactly for me helping you or anybody else. It feels so natural. It's like a blink of an eye. The hardest part of all of this is to surrender everything to God. That's the most complicated part. The gift or byproduct, the release, everything is just a byproduct. The most difficult part is to surrender everything.
Right. Well,
not try to, because I love you all so much. You see, if Pierre rush in and try to rescue, I need to do, I have to literally let go of everything and say, I don't know how to, I can't see the future. I have no real ability. The more humble you are and the more you surrender into the blessed field, I can't see the future. I don't have the ability to cure a disease. It's not a gift that I have. The gift that I have is that I listen well. But in the meantime, I'm giving the burden of this or that person to you. And the moment I can let it go and give it, the answers come. And the solution set shows up. And the healing passed through me into the person. That's the most difficult part.
That takes practice, right?
It does take practice. If it is a stranger, somebody I don't know, I can do it much better. But when I
see.
emotional connection and I love you, I've known you for all these years, my emotion and my own bias gets involved.
I see.
And all of a sudden, Pierre is going to try to do, and it clouds my judgment.
I see. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Anybody else? Any questions, any comments? All right, let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll do our closing meditation. 5 minutes.
Is this one that we can lie down with, Pierre?
You could lie down if you want to. Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Take a very deep and slow breath. And as you inhale and exhale deeply and slowly, allow the universal life force that permeates everything to enter into your lungs. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your soul and your awareness drop in the middle of your chest. Please forgive me. I love you, and I let go. Let your mind and your heart sync with each other. And notice what you noticed. I release all attachments, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. I release all attachments, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. I release all attachments, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness endless luminosity. I release all attachments, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. I now enter the rest, the stillness, and the liberation of God. I ask my fourth dimensional ascended self to share with me the expansion, the knowing, and the insight that exists in the fourth dimension. I ask my fourth dimensional self to help me remember the gift, the abilities, the wisdom, and the powers of the fourth dimension. May the expansion, evolutionary change, and expansion in consciousness of the fourth dimension become completely accessible and may my entire being reside in the fourth dimensional vibration and frequency. By the guidance of my already ascended self in 4D, take me into the blessed field. And may I acclimate to that environment perfectly. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Take a very deep and slow breath. And whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes.
Thank you, Pierre.
You're welcome, Douglas. I know it's a lot to process, so I won't say too much.
Hmm.
I want to thank you all for listening to me tonight. And if you're watching us on Patreon, thank you for the support. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like this video, increase the algorithm, share the channel with your friends, and I will talk to you next week. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Love you all.